Say number 81. That was the number of my bus that I used to get home.
He had this great sort of poetic nature that was very gentle and a very feminine nature, which he would absolutely deny, but there you are. And he was creating a myth in himself.
Phil spoke many times about drugs and never actively encouraged their use.
There's a whole new generation of musicians now who don't look on a drug culture at all. I think that was a leftover from the hippies and stuff, you know. There's something in man that wants to go to the edge, you know, and come back and write about it, you know, the artist. They'll go to the top of the mountain, bottom of the sea, to the edge, always as far as they can go. And some people fall over the edge, you know. And the same with drugs, I think. There is some people who genuinely took them thinking that, you know, it would be an experience to write about, you know. And in doing so, they glorified the experience, and it's not always right. You can't say it's strong enough, you know. You will actually die if you mess around too much. It makes the statement very heavy. Don't.
And from what I've seen, when I was with him for, I've known Philip since I first saw him in Ireland 17 years ago, and I've been in close contact with him for over 12 years, or even more. Philip was one that would drink, and he could drink a lot of people under the table, but I never saw him really go out. I've never really seen Philip drunk as such. There's a lot of talk about other things. I've never seen him do any of the substances that allegedly he's supposed to have done. And this is something that's very close. I'm sure there are other people that may have seen it, but I haven't. To me, the way Philip lived his life was one of... he burnt the candle at both ends, and he burnt it in the middle as well.
The question was once asked, did marriage and his new wife change Phil's lifestyle?
I'm sure she has. Not that I notice, but I'm sure, you know, like, the music reflects my life sometimes, you know, so, obviously. I don't know. We never talk about it. She liked the band, yeah. She worked for a publicist. And that's how we met. Career, you know, my whole career is a gamble, you know. I like to keep my home life, you know, like private.
I lived with him for a while, and I used to see the other side of his nature. He's a very secretive person, very outgoing. It was hard to get close to him in a way, because there was a terrific amount of energy coming at you. He was a person that came at you. You would be drawn to his presence, whatever, but it was, to get very close to him, you just felt this terrifically powerful person there, his greatness about him. And he used to keep the other side of his life, his private side of his life, private.
There's certain things I don't talk about. I don't talk about my private life. You know, I keep my family to myself. It's not fodder for Lizzy fans, you know. I mean, there's certain things, there's certain parts of me I keep private. And my family, they keep private.
I remember one day we were travelling in the van, and I used to be into sort of esoteric philosophies, Zen and what have you, which was a vogue at that period. And I was sort of getting into some deep philosophical point with him. And he just turned around to me and said, "Look, man, don't get inside my head." And he just didn't go for any of that hippie philosophy at all. He had definite views and definite feelings and definite taboos about what he should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, but most of the time I just knock it on the head if people start to ask too many questions.
The Thin Lizzy frontman moved back to Dublin and suggested his mother move back with him.
By now he'd married, and he told his wife to buy a home over there, and she did. And then he came down to Manchester and he said, "Look, my bar used to open all night long, show business bar, because that's how they live. They entertain people all night long, and they don't get home to their digs till 2 in the morning. And I used to open my bar for them. And therefore I was a night worker. So he said to me, "I think it's time you went." I said, "You're putting me out to pasture." And in a way he said, go on buy a house." And I did. I went and bought a house by the sea. He paid for it. And then while I was over there, I thought, gosh, I've nothing to do. And that's when we decided to go into buy a hotel. We bought a hotel called the Asgard. That was on a beach also. It was very beautiful.
Like all Irishmen, Phil enjoyed the homecoming. He had one particular fond memory of a concert he did the day after his birthday.
Oh, it was fantastic. Had a great time. definitely I'll remember that as a magic moment for a long, long time.
He played to a capacity crowd.
Yeah, the largest there's been in Ireland. Well, somewhere between 15 and 20,000, you know. It was really fun. It was my birthday the day before, you know, and we had a grey party, and then we played the concert the next day. And all the crowd sang happy birthday to me at the end of the concert. It was fantastic.
Despite leaving the band for the Bad Reputation album, Brian Robertson did return to do some live work.
He did leave the band. I mean, he left the band when we were in America with Gary, because he'd picked up with Jimmy Bain and they were going to do an album. So he left the band, but when we came back, like, we were always friends. I mean, there was never any animosity, as we say, in the business. And so when we came back, we were still going out drinking together and stuff like that. And obviously he'd come out and played on the album. You know, he played a couple of tracks on the album. So then we said, well, why not do the tours? Because it doesn't look you're going to get anything together by the end of this year. So he was keen enough to play on the tour. And so, like, what we're doing is we're going to tour England and America and, you know, promote the album. And then have a sit down and think about the guitarist problem. But at the moment, it's not a problem to us because Brian is happy enough playing with us, you know. And like we've got over the American tour without Brian, and we've got over the recording of the album, I mean, with his help. But like, so basically Thin Lizzy is a three-piece with like the fourth member, you know what I mean? Like, we have travelling members, like substitutes. I mean, but it's very friendly, you know. I mean, there's no.
It's sort of like the three of us now, Phil, Brian, Downey, myself, are sort of the nucleus of Thin Lizzy now, right? But when we go out on the road, it's always going to be as a four-piece with two lead guitars, right? Because that's our sound, is a two lead guitar sound with the harmony guitars and all that. So we'll never walk out on the stage as a three-piece. It'll always be as a four-piece.
They used other musicians as well, like John Irish Earl, the sax player from the Graham Parker band.
My brother-in-law, Bobby, plays drums with the band, right? So he came down and visited us while we were doing the album, and he said, well, listen, you know, John is, but, you know, he'd really like to play on the album, and we were also wondering if he'd like to play on the album. So that really gelled really nice that way. So I called up John and asked him if he'd come down. And he was down in a flash. He brought down his sax and his clarinet. He plays on Downtown Sundown also, right? Fantastic player, and he did a great job on dancing too. So it worked out great for us.
Producer Tony Visconti was on hand for moral support.
Tony was the best man available for the job. And like, we were taking a chance, but it really worked. Once we started working together, it really worked out well. I mean, especially as far as Scott was concerned, because he was doing so much work on this album.
Yeah, he helped me out a lot, because since I was like the only guitar player there for, say, 3/4 of the album, I needed a lot of bolstering up, and I needed somebody to give me the confidence that I needed the whole time I was in there, right? And he was there to give it to me, and we worked really good as a team. All four of us really worked good as a team. So it was really nice.
Singer Mary Hopkins even did backing vocals on one song.
Yeah, that's the holy song on the album. We wanted, there's a part in the song where we wanted a very angelic choir type of thing, you know. And her being Welsh, like, she knew exactly what we were talking about. And of course, my voice isn't very angelic, so it was like Mr. Bad and Mrs. Good, you know. I mean, but it works really well. I'm really knocked out when I hear it. I see God every time I play.
Phil had a great affinity with the early American culture as he sang songs about cowboys, buffaloes, and everybody was going southbound.
It was a feel I picked up in America, basically, you know. This great feeling that everybody moved west in the old days, you know, and the east was always established, and the north is a bit cold, you know, so, you know, it seems like south was the great explorer's way to go in the end, you know, and I had such a good time in Texas and everything that I just got this feel for the southern part